Hello everybody, I am Jarrett Ross, the GeneaVlogger, and welcome back to another Professional Genealogist Reacts. On today's video, I will be watching I Took a DNA Test by Jamie Dodger. I am not familiar with this channel at all. It is pretty big, 831,000 subscribers. Not quite sure what it's about. Sometimes I look up the channels before I watch stuff. Fortunately, I've just been so busy that I finally found some time to do some reactions, and it was just like, I'm just going to put on what I have in my watch list. So I haven't really looked into it. From what I can tell, he looks European, so I'm going to guess there's going to be a good amount of European. But I guess we're just going to have to watch and see, so we'll just get jumping right into it. But before we do, please be sure to give this a like. That really does help me out. Also, be sure to subscribe and click that bell for notifications on future videos. But with all of that fun stuff said, let's go ahead and watch the video.
I don't really know how to start this video. Hello, let's look at my DNA. Welcome to the history of my genetics. Jamie Rains, the Ancestry. Essentially, ages ago, I was like, I want to do one of those DNA test thingies. It looks like fun. And my mum was like, I want to do one too, because my mum was adopted.
Okay.
And so thought it might be quite interesting to know where in the world she comes from, if it was anywhere different than she expected. And so we went online and we ordered a box each from 23andMe and spat in the tubes, which was really weird. It's very difficult to produce quite a lot of saliva just on demand, you know, and you're not even allowed to drink. So I got an email in the other day saying your results are ready to view, yay. Yeah, so I thought I would record myself looking at the results. I've not looked at them yet. Shall we get started? I need my laptop.
Yes.
And my glasses. Okay, let's go. So I got the Ancestry and the Health. So
I think he's doing it on his phone, which a lot of times when people do that, they don't show it on the screen. And I think I've said this so many times when it happens, but like, it's so much better when you can see the results as they read them, not just hear them say it, because then we can analyze it a little bit further.
It's given me like DNA stuff in terms of like my ancestors and where I'm from in the world and bits like that, but also it's given me like a report on some health aspects as well. So I think we should start with the Ancestry. Do you agree? What do you think? Well,
I agree. So I definitely think we should look at that and just focus on that and the DNA relatives.
I have no idea what you think, and I will have recorded this video a long time ago, 3 days ago, when you're watching this, so I'm starting with Ancestry.
Actually, this video was done June 17th, 2018, so a few years before I'm watching it. But we know, being that it's from 2018, there's definitely been some updates since this video was shot.
Ancestry composition, so this is the one that tells you where you're from. I am 100% Jamie Rains. I'm 99.1% European, 67.4% British and Irish. Okay, I think that's actually lower than I was expecting it to be. Ooh, I am 12% French and German. Interesting. I am 6.2% Italian. Yes. Specifically, Malta, which is really interesting. That's really interesting because both sets of my grandparents, my mum's parents and my dad's parents, lived in Glasgow in Scotland, and both my parents grew up in Glasgow, but my dad was actually born in Malta and was there for like a really brief amount of time when he was a baby. So although he's not Maltese, clearly there is some Malteser in me. 1.9% Scandinavian, 0.4% Eastern European, broadly Northwestern European, 9.1%. Interesting. I am 0.7% Western Asian and North African, and 0.1% East Asian and Native American.
So super trace results, and just, I mean, even though it's on a continental level, I think that there's such trace results that I'd be surprised if he still has them now after all the updates. If he does, that could be a little bit more of an indication that maybe they are, you know, you can be a bit more confident in them, but with such small ones, yeah, low confidence.
And 0.1% of me is unassigned. Where is the 0.1% that cannot be assigned? I apologize to you. That's really cool. So I'm mostly British.
So here we get the results. Pretty straightforward results. Fairly interesting. I would be curious, is that 0.7% Western Asian, North African? Is that something a bit more significant? Could we actually find it genealogically, or is that just kind of a misread? But unfortunately, that's the problem when you have trace results, is that they're the confidence in where you're getting it from and if it's true is very low. But it's not completely gone. There is a possibility. I would say, these are pretty typical results from what I would expect of someone in the UK. It's not surprising with anyone in Europe really to get that kind of a mixture, just because of the migrations of all the different peoples throughout Europe for centuries. So there's all these little pockets of all different migrations, and sometimes, if it's just 200, 300 years ago, you may not realize that you descend from that migration. It's very common when people finally do their family trees to find all sorts of stuff that they had no clue about just because it was so far back.
British and Irish, but with a good chunk of French and German and a little bit of Italian in there as well, and Scandinavian. That's cool. I mean, 12% French and German. I was expecting to just be like 99%.
Now, interesting, under French and German, it says Netherlands. And in the last video that I reacted to, or I guess it was a few videos ago, for Adventures in Naps, she is Canadian, she got French and German, and under hers it said Netherlands as well. She had a higher chunk, it was like 30-something%. And she interpreted that as that was all from Netherlands. It was all Dutch. For him, he hasn't even made mention of it. But that is something to consider, that basically they're seeing that he has a lot of matches who are also getting Netherlands, and because of that, they're saying that they think that French and German is correlated to some sort of Dutch ancestry. So if that's true, let's say if we took it if we took it to be what it says, 12% Dutch in a sense, then that would be the equivalent of a great-grandparent who was born in the Netherlands or who was fully Dutch. As to whether or not he has a fully Dutch great-grandparent, I don't know. That would take, researching, but I doubt it. My guess is it's more of a mixture of different things. But you never know until you actually start looking into it. So it's just, that's the way to interpret these, is when you look at each thing, you can kind of interpret it in multiple ways based on the historical context, and then use that to help further the genealogical research. So in a lot of my videos, you hear me talking about, don't jump to too many conclusions, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't hypothesize, where is it coming from? Why am I getting that? And especially if you can come up with specific ways of, all right, well, if it is a great-grandparent, then we're going to want to figure out the story of every single one of his 8 great-grandparents, and then we could possibly find where's that one Dutch great-grandparent. But let's continue.
British and Irish. Cool. Oh, it tells you when. Your ancestry timeline. So how many generations ago was your most recent ancestor from each population. So British and Irish have been my ancestors since 1900. And
I kind of hate this timeline because it's so often misinterpreted by different people. And so, you can see, he's saying, what did he say? He said, this is...
British and Irish have been my ancestors since 1900.
See, British and Irish have been his ancestors since 1900 is not what it's saying. What it's saying is how many generations ago, or not really generations, but what's the timeline of your most recent ancestor where this is likely what they would have considered themselves fully. So it's showing anyone between born 1960 and 1900, so 3 generations, that is likely his most recent ancestor of fully British origin, or fully British origin. Then we have French and German. We see it's 3rd to 5th generation. So that's basically a range of a grandparent to a second great grandparent. So where does it average out? A great grandparent, like we were talking about. And so it's basically saying that his most recent ancestor, where he's getting that French and German, assuming all of that is coming from one ancestor, because it could be coming from multiple, but assuming that it's all coming from one ancestor, that's the most recent that you would expect to see that ancestor. And then for all of the other ones, 5th generation and further back. So 5th generation being second great grandparents, and then further back, so it goes 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and so on. And basically, second great grandparents, that's when you're expecting about 6 point whatever percent. And then 3rd great grandparents, it's the 3 point whatever percent. And then, it keeps getting halved each generation. So this is basically just kind of taking those percentages and saying, if you were to have one ancestor that you're getting all of this DNA from, this is how far back in your family tree you should expect them to have been born / lived, I guess you could say. But unfortunately, a lot of people misinterpret this timeline. So let's keep listening to what he says, because my guess is he may not get the timeline exactly just based on that first sentence right off the bat.
And it overlaps slightly with French and German, which is the second most recent. So what would that be? Like my great-great-grandparents to like my great-great-great-great-grandparent? I don't know. And then everything else, so Scandinavian, Italian, Eastern European, and Western Asian was all somewhere between 1840 to 1720.
I just realized the way that I have the screen recording is a little off, so it's getting cut off a bit. I'm going to try to fix it. I do apologize. Let's see if that fixes it. I apparently did the screen a little too small.
Oh, I told you.
We're just going to keep going with
British
it.
and Irish is 1 to 3 generations. French and German is 3 to 5. And everything else is 5 to 8 plus. That's mental.
Okay, so he kind of, after going through it a bit, he seemed to get it. Hopefully. I don't know. That's one of the things with a lot of the stuff they give you with the DNA test results is it's hard for people to interpret. Even if they explain what you're kind of looking at, it may not make sense to a lot of people who don't really work in family history and stuff so much.
Really weird to think about that, like, there are so many people going back in time that are related to me or that I'm related to. Neanderthal ancestry. You have more Neanderthal variants than 70% of customers. Some of your traits may be influenced by having Neanderthal variants. Straight hair. You have one Neanderthal variant associated with having straight hair. I don't have the straightest hair. When I grow it out, it gets curly. You have one Neanderthal...
Yeah, I think his hair is pretty straight compared to a lot of curly-haired people that I know. I mean, assuming that he doesn't use, like, products and straighteners and stuff like that. But just looking at his hair, like, yeah, there's a little bit of curl in it, but... if I were to grow what I have left of my hair out, it would end up looking like a weird afro, which I'm sure in some of my older videos, that's kind of what it looks like, is like I have like a little mini afro, or is what some people call a Jufro.
Variant associated with having less back hair. Yeah, I don't have very much back hair. I have shoulder hairs. You have one Neanderthal variant associated with your height. Is that tall? Because I'm reasonably tall. Your DNA family. Jamie, you have 1,110 DNA relatives in your 23andMe DNA family. 770 third to fourth cousins found. Mostly in America. Holy shoot. 755 DNA relatives in the US. 55 in Canada, 25 in the UK, and 10 in Australia. But they found 0 close family to second cousins. That's mad. Okay.
So he was mentioning that his mom was adopted, and she was interested in doing the DNA testing. But for him, the matches that he received were probably too distant to be able to determine his mother's biological parents, if that's what they were trying to do. But if she were to do a DNA test, which it sounds like she did, then her matches, they should get a lot of similar ones, because matches that he's getting through her side, she should be matching as well, but they should be showing up at a higher amount of shared DNA, so she should be able to get a better idea of how they're related to her, and from that, then be able to figure out who her biological parents are, possibly. This video was done 2018, so there's been a lot more people who've done DNA testing since then, and it's very possible that they have a lot closer of matches now. So I do wonder if anyone follows his channel, or even if, Jamie, you're watching this, if your mom ever figured out her biological family or is interested in it, let us know. Maybe I can include you in the YouTuber family tree series I'm doing. And then we can get your mom's biological family figured out if you haven't yet. But anyway, let's continue and see the rest.
That is it for Ancestry. I'm probably going to go and like look at this intensively after I stop filming this, but I think that's everything that would be interesting for a video. Let's look at the health.
For most people, I'd want to see the best matches and stuff, but obviously privacy reasons keeps him from doing that, I'm sure.
Okay. What? Genetic weight. Predisposed to weigh more than average. Your genes predispose you to weigh about 3% more than average. What? I weigh 137 pounds and I'm 6'1". The average weight for a 24-year-old man who is 6'1" is 187 pounds. Yes, so I'm a little bit under, and this says that a healthy weight for someone my height is from 140 to 189 pounds. I'm working on it. I was 130 pounds at the beginning of this year, so I'm doing good. I'm getting somewhere. I need to eat more. Sorry, my battery died. If the camera looks...
Lift weights.
Looks like it's in a slightly different position, then that's because it is. Okay, deep sleep. Less likely to be a deep sleeper. Yes, I'm quite a light sleeper. Bald spot. Likely no bald spot. Not all balding is created equal. Ever notice how some men lose hair at their temples while others lose at the top of their heads? If you go bald, genetics play a role in the pattern yours follows. Jamie, the combination of your genetics and other factors make you unlikely to have a bald spot. Yes, it's always been a fear that I will bald from the back. Jamie, I just messed up my own name. Jamie, the combination of your genetics and other factors make you unlikely to experience hair loss or thinning before age 40. Yes! So what, this is just like a mature hairline then? Because like my hair's not thinned a huge amount, but it has receded. Because there's a difference between like balding and receding hairline and mature hairline. And my hairline went to this like 3 years ago and it's just stayed put, so... I'm going to thank my dad for this because he has perfect hair, like straight across hairline. So I'm not as perfect as that, but it's thick and I'm unlikely to lose it all and thin before age 40. I know that's really vain, but it's something that worried me a lot, like a lot. And I know I can't just like now go, oh, well, I'm not going to bald. I still could. It just means I'm unlikely to before 40.
That's the perfect way to interpret this. That's the yeah. It's the perfect way to interpret it. This is not telling for sure this is how it's going to be or this is how it is. It's likely, not so likely, very likely, and yeah, so perfect understanding.
Earwax type. Likely wet earwax. Ew. Light or dark hair. Likely light. Okay, now I'm losing faith in the no balding thing because not all of this is like right. Toe length ratio, likely big toe longer. Now my second toe's longer. Shabba calls it my alien toe because like my big toe is like that and then my second toe is like way above it.
That's kind of funny because my sister always says that I have alien looking toes. Not because of the length, but because of my toenail. It's like really curved looking. So she always says that my toes look like alien toes.
Wake up time, likely to wake up around 8:39 a.m. So yeah, I think that's it, guys. I think I've gone through pretty much everything that would be even remotely interesting. I hope you found this video interesting and enjoyed learning more about me as I learned more about me. I feel enlightened. I'm really interested to go and look back at the the genetic matches from other people who've taken it. And yeah, I think I'm just gonna go spend the rest of the day like really looking into this. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much for watching, and yeah, I will see you next time. Much love, guys. Bye.
All right, that was a pretty good video, but very interesting overall. I am curious, since it's, been 3 years since he did this video. Has his mom been able to discover her biological family? Have they gotten better matches? Did he find any matches that were surprising for his dad's side? I don't know, kind of all the typical stuff. It would be really interesting to have him as one of the guests on that series I'm doing, YouTuber Family Trees series. Although I think in the past 4 or 5 reactions I've done, I've basically mentioned that. Basically anyone who I do a reaction to their video, if they want me to do their family tree for part of that series, I think it's very likely that I'd probably say yes to it. But either way, pretty good video overall. Very typical British ancestry sort of readings. But being that he does have that, unknown side with his mom being adopted, there could be a lot of stuff going on that could explain some of those smaller percentages that he was getting in European, as well as that little bit of West Asian he was getting. You know, is there a tie between British Empire, you know, especially British Empire rule over India, and is there some sort of familial connection to that? Well, thank you so much for checking out this video. I do hope that you enjoyed. If you did, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. That really does help me out. You can also click right about here if you'd like to subscribe. It is completely free to do so. And if you'd like to get access to content early, or even more, get access to exclusive content, be sure to become a patron of mine on Patreon. And not only do you get all of that fun stuff, but you also get to support my channel, which is really huge. You can also follow me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at GeneaVlogger. I'm the GeneaVlogger. See you in my next video.